I am here today to speak to you about somebody very important and very close to me. To deliver their eulogy, in fact. The young man in question is Jake Rockney Schwartz, and I can almost feel his presence in the room with us today. Almost. Jake usually liked to keep things informal, but as this is a speech and I personally like to keep things organized, let's go ahead and get the credibility statement out of the way. I am qualified to speak on Jake Schwartz because I am Jake Schwartz. Now you may be thinking things like, I bet he's not even really dead. And you'd be correct, although by the time this video is actually presented, who knows. However, I believe that the fact that I am not currently dead is immaterial in the face of the facts that I was actually able to figure out how to use photo story. And that I already have a perfectly good eulogy in front of me, and I don't want it to go bad. In other words, waiting around for me to die would be awfully inconvenient. Besides, I'm dead on the inside. Speaking of Jake's transitions from existence to non-existence and vice versa, let's talk about his birth. Jake was born on October 29th, 1992, and his first words were to his mother. They were, "Really, Mom? You couldn't hold me in for 2 more days?" He then proceeded to urinate upon her, and thus was the beginning of Jake's tumultuous dealings with the opposite sex, a motif that persisted like the irritation from a splinter between his fingers, that he couldn't bring himself to acknowledge and couldn't quite ignore either. By the way, he had an ex-girlfriend. He would frequently reminisce on his childhood, when his father would carry him through the park on his back, as is depicted here. But in truth, he was very much of the propensity to allow the past to bury itself, to fade, distort, selectively emphasize, and thereby romanticize and beautify itself as it tends to. In short, he lived in the moment, and he tried to be virtuous when he could. When a helpless, inebriated girl tried to stumble home, Jake would be the one to take her in his arms. Ignore the kicking, her screaming, her biting, her spitting, her threats of litigation, and carry her back to her dorm. He considered himself first and foremost a writer, mainly because he couldn't really do much else. He wrote a play that was selected and performed by the creative writing and drama departments of his high school, respectively, and won 15th place in the Writer's Digest National Short Play Competition. And a poem that was selected as one of the national winners of the Creative Communications Poetic Power Competition, but the majority of his work is unpublished. In a normal eulogy, I would challenge you all to live your lives to the fullest, to be all you can be, and to be kind to one another in his honor. But the truth is, Jake wouldn't really care about that. Instead, since I am presumably still alive, I challenge you all to do and say things that will most benefit me. Do that in my honor. Please. Let us now take a moment of silence. Actually, don't. Jake hated those. Instead, let us simply say farewell and engage in as meaningful a conversation as we can. Jake would also have wanted it to be known that his only regret was that he never learned how to swim.